Hey, what's up, guys? Here on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is hot. I'm your host, Zach Jackson. We have a special guest here today, my professor, Keith Green. He teaches at Montclair State University. I'll just have Professor. You could just introduce yourself to the audience and let you know what you do.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Zach, thanks for having me on here. My sixth year here at Montclair State teaching. I teach a sports PR class that Zach takes with me. I also teach another class called Hawk Communications, which is kind of like an agency class where it has some sports and non-sports clients. Most of my background actually is not teaching, but actually sports in NASCAR as the PR director for a couple different racetracks. Worked in the NBA for the Sixers for a while back when Allen Iverson was drafted. Worked for Guinness World Records. I just had a lot of fun throughout my career. Feel very fortunate and appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, Zach.
All right, I appreciate being on with you. Thank you for coming on. So,
Sure.
Guys, this is season 6, episode number 29 here on the Fire Sports Pod. We are powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes the dream yard go. So let's get right into the show, shall we, Professor? We got a couple things we got to talk about. As we could see, you're an Eagles fan. You got the Eagles shirt on. Super Bowl Sunday is coming about in about a couple days. So just your first thoughts. I know we touched about this in class, but just to reiterate what we talked about in class, what are your initial thoughts? What do you think? How do you think the game's going to play out? And who do you think's your X factor? Because I know who the X factor is for both teams, but I'm going to just say, like, in general, who do you think is the X factor really could put you guys over the hump and get the win?
So I'll answer the question, Zach, by taking the obvious out of the question. So let's take the quarterbacks out of the question. Let's take Saquon Barkley out of the question, because I think that's a fair way to do it.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a guy on offense. I'll give you a guy on defense. I think the guy on defense for the Eagles is Jalen Carter, because as you saw at the end of the game with the Rams in particular, he absolutely has the ability to be just a game wrecker. And I think with the Chiefs potentially having a weak spot on their line with the injury, and Mike Caliendo was in there at the end of the Bills game, I think, or part of the Bills game after an injury, gave up 10 pressures. He might have a tough day, or that line could have a tougher day than expected against the Eagles front that is accomplished. So we'll see how that goes. And then on offense for the Eagles, I think an X factor, and I'm speaking strictly from the Eagles standpoint right now, is I think Dallas Goedert. I think he has an ability he's healthy now after being injured midway through the year. A good game against the Commanders. And I think he has an ability to, use his speed and his size and maybe find some seams there and get away from, in particular, I think the Kansas City linebacking core. They tackle very well as a secondary, but I think he has an ability to get away from some of the linebackers in particular.
Gotcha. All right. So now for Kansas City, I know your Eagles biased here, but let's take out the bias here. Sure. Where do you think? Obviously, Travis Kelce. We're not going to talk about Mahomes. Blah blah blah. Who's your X factor for Kansas City? And then I'll go into my details on who I think the X factor for both teams will be.
I think for Kansas City, I think McDuffie. So he's probably going to stay with AJ Brown most of the game, is my guess. That's usually the way Kansas City structures their defense. Although Spagnuolo is very good at the way he changes things up, so you never know with him. So I think he has the ability to potentially I don't want to say shut down AJ Brown, but limit him. You know what I mean? So I think on that end for Kansas City on the defense, on offense. I guess I'd go Hunt. I mean, he's been running really well. Again, he might have a tough time against that Eagles front, but he's been running well, and obviously Pacheco's been hurt, so he hasn't been as effective. So we'll see.
Okay, cool. So for me, I'm gonna go for the start with the Eagles. I think for me on offense, I would. Are we taking out like Devontae Smith and AJ Brown?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, so I'll say on offense, I would probably go with. I'm going to go 2. I think it's the offensive line. They got to continue to do what they've been doing all year in the last couple years. They've been the best offensive line for the last couple years. And then I would say individually, I think Devontae Smith needs to have an impact because like McDuffie's going to stay with AJ Brown. Now the difference is who's going to guard Devontae Smith. And I think if he has a good game along with Saquon and you can really shut down A.J. Brown, then it's really just up to if he can step up, which he has for the last 2 years or so. So that's on offense. Now on defense, I know you said Jalen Carter. I think in general, on a broader scheme, I'm going to say the secondary for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
I think from linebacking to defensive guys in the front line, I think you guys are great. The secondary, like they've had patches where they've been bad, they've been good. I mean, they've really came along in the last couple of games of the stretch that they've been able to really turn the ball over and stuff like that. I think if they are able to play just free football and just go after the football, I think everything will be fine for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now for the Kansas City, Xavier Worthy, the speedy wide receiver, he's the X factor for me for Kansas City. I think he's that guy. It's like if he gets a catch, you got to be able to tackle him. If not, he's gone. So I think that big playability. I know he's not a Tyreek Hill, not yet. Maybe he could be in the future, but not right now. But I think he's an X factor. And then on defense, I would probably have to go. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I would have to go with Chris Jones. I think if he has an impact on the front line, I think that's going to be a problem. That's why I said the X factor for the Eagles would be their offensive line to be able to hold back Chris Jones. And I forgot the other guy, the guy that plays on the left side of Chris Jones, or on the right side if you're looking as a quarterback. He's
Josh Sweat on the right side,
or
either Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith.
Oh, for the Chiefs. You're talking about. You're talking about. Sorry, the Chiefs' offensive line.
No, the defensive line.
The other side. I see.
There's a guy that was was a monster against Josh Allen. He had like 3 sacks and like 8 pressures.
His name's escaping me.
I know his name too. I don't know exactly what it is, but that guy is going to be a monster problem. If you could stop Chris Jones, then now you got to deal with that guy. So there's going to be a bunch of stuff. I think it's going to be a good Super Bowl. Now, before we go into some other details, what's your prediction? Score. Got to get your score prediction.
Yeah, give me the score. Let me say one thing before we go on about it, because you're talking about the Chiefs defense, right, and stopping the Eagles, right? So an interesting thing I came across this week is that the Chiefs, out of their base defense, right, so 4-3, when they line up in 4-3, they give up 3.8 yards a carry to running backs, right? When they're in nickel, it's 5.2. So I would look for the Eagles to maybe try to spread them out a little bit into some 11 personnel and try to run Barkley out of some of those packages. So so we'll see. I mean, the Chiefs defense is very good. They're not elite. Let's not confuse the issue. They have Chris Jones is elite. Let's not that's for sure. McDuffie's a solid corner. They have really excellent players that wouldn't be here otherwise, but they can be beaten in certain phases of the game. So you want a prediction from me? I think it's going to be. What's the over under, Zach? Do you know?
I believe I have that here.
I know the spread's 1.5 for Kansas City. I think I'm not just saying this because I'm an Eagles fan, obviously. I probably 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever they played 3 calendar years, I guess you could say, I sort of had to convince myself that I think the Eagles would beat them. I don't need to convince anybody. I think honestly, I think the Eagles are the better team. I think they have a better roster. Now, does that mean I think there's no way they're going to lose? Absolutely not. They're 10 paths to the Eagles losing this game. And as we all know, we've seen this throughout sports history. Just because a team has a better roster doesn't mean they're going to win. So, do I think the Eagles will win? Yes. Would it surprise me if they didn't? No. All right. So here you have some predictions here. So I see a lot of high scoring here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be that high.
I don't either. I don't think so.
So, Professor, let's tell you the over and under. So it's a picking, basically. It's a +1 going to Kansas City. Well, it's +1 on Philly, but that means Kansas City projected to win by 1. It's the over and under of 49.
49
on the dot.
I mean, it sounds about right. I mean, I was going to sort of go like a lowish, lower score, like a 24, 21, 24, 20
I
kind of
just don't think
Eagles.
it's not going to be like Matthew, the guy in our class, the Eagles fan.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to him. He said 27-21 Eagles.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a 38-35 game. I just don't think they don't have the offense that they did. Well, the Eagles do, but the Chiefs' defense is a lot better than they were 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, but so is the Eagles' defense. The Eagles' defense is light years ahead.
And then the offense of Kansas City is not as powerful as they were 2 years ago, because 2 years ago they had Tyreek Hill. So right? No.
Right. Yeah.
No. They didn't have Tyreek Hill that one. That was when the year that he left. They had Smith-Schuster. They had a lot more guys that were younger. So they were able to play with the ball a lot more. And they were able to score. But again, I mean, it was 38-35.
38-35, yeah.
It would have been 31-35. You guys won if Jalen Hurts didn't fumble the ball and they returned it for the touchdown. So I mean, and that was the only turnover. So I also discussed, and I'll get your way in until and then we'll move on to the NBA side of things. What do you think that basically, obviously in sports, whoever wins the turnover battle really wins the game? But do you think that even if you turn the ball over, will you guys still have a shot?
It'll be harder against a team like that. And I know that is just because I follow the team and I hear the messaging that comes out of the coach's mouth in during their press conferences. And they very much emphasize to the players about the turnover battle. They said they made it a point to watch before the NFC Championship game every single clip, every fumble that Peanut Tillman caused during his career. So they have emphasized this, like the peanut punch and just winning the turnover battle and being careful with the ball. And that's very much reflected in the way that you have also seen Jalen Hurts play this year, right? He's not taking risks. I think the game plan, I want to say it's not dialed down for him, but it's also to emphasize the talents of Saquon Barkley, right? So naturally it's going to take something away from the quarterback and his ability to, not ability, but his the game planning around what they think is going to give him the best chance to come away victorious.
I to be honest, as you see, I'm a Cowboys fan, so it's really trying to like give credit to the Eagles is kind of hard for me. But without the bias in it, I really think that the Eagles. I had a feeling coming into this year they were the better team. They were going to be the best team probably in the NFC, and it was a shock. I didn't say that it was. I told a lot of people that Jaden Daniels was going to be the best out of his draft class. And a lot of people were telling me, well, your take sucks, whatever the case. You know how the social media is. Like, no, it ain't going to work out. I was like, all right, well, we'll see. I don't think Caleb Williams is that good. And I think Jaden Daniels is set up in a great situation with a good head coach and a good offense and defensive coordinator, and their defense is not that bad. And I think was set up perfectly, and he doesn't need all these crazy wide receivers. He just needs good enough people around him to make himself look good. And he got to the NFC Championship game. Did I think he was going to get there? No, but I did think he was going to make the playoffs. Nobody did, not even close. And I thought Jaden Daniels, if his team didn't turn the ball over 4 times, that game was awesome against the Eagles. In that the first half, they were only down 11, 34-23 with about 8 minutes left in the third. And then they were already 2 turnovers in. And then they just had another turnover after another turnover, and then the pick at the end. But like we say, and that's how the Lions lost to the Commanders. They threw 4 interceptions or 4 turnovers. You're not going to win the game, or really now anyways. The NBA is different. You go down by 20. Now with the 3 ball, you can get back there in 2 seconds. So, and it's a good way to transition. We're going to be moving on to our second segment, and we'll be going over the NBA. And all the trade deadlines, because I got to get your take on even certain ones that we didn't even talk about in class. So let me share my screen for everybody, and we'll talk more. But just to get started, what's your first thoughts on? Obviously, we all know what happened a couple days ago with the massive trade between Luka and the Mavs with Anthony Davis. How do you think? Like we talked in class, how do you think that affects the NBA, and do you think it's good or bad for the NBA in certain ways?
Well, I think you want your, if you're running a league, you want your bigger stars, your biggest stars in your bigger markets, right? It doesn't always work out that way between, where a player gets drafted or where they get they have a preference or whatever it might be. That said, certainly it was a shocking trade in many different ways, not just from the personnel, but the destination for Luka and what that's going to mean for that team and that franchise in the future, right? So that was an interesting trade. I think long term, it's probably good for the league. It's probably bad for the Lakers haters out there, and there's plenty of them. There are plenty of them. So, I think from a competition standpoint, this might be a short term pain thing for the Mavericks, but who's to say that they're not a better team in the short term in the next year or two with Anthony Davis, right? And the way he defends, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to, again, the first thoughts of me, I usually am up all nights, all the times of the day, even at nighttime. And I fell asleep for the one time early. And of course, I'm not up at 1 o'clock. I fall asleep an hour before that. And the trade goes, and I'm looking through, my first thing was Instagram, because a lot of people, they wake up, they look on TikTok, they scroll on some stupid crap. I look on for news because you never know. And I didn't look at my notifications. I just jumped on Instagram and it said Mavericks traded. And I was like, nah, no way. And because some weird dude that was just commentating, I was like, there's no way. You only got like 6,000 likes. The views are not that much. There's no way. And I kept scrolling. Then I get to Shams. Then I get to Dan. Then I go on my notification. I'm like, no way. Because we're like 5th in the West. And I don't think that the Lakers, I get it for long term. It's great. But like you said, I think the short term, I don't know, man. We'll see. I got to see him play. Obviously, he's not going to be 100% after coming back from the calf strain this Saturday, but he will make his debut this Saturday against the Pacers at 4 in Crypto.com Arena. But I don't know. I got to see how he plays. I don't think the narrative that Charles Barkley and all them say, I think is stupid. I think is dumb. LeBron can't play with Luka, or Luka can't play with LeBron. I think that's stupid. Personally, even because I also coach basketball. I've been around basketball, not for like forever, obviously. I'm only 20, but I've been around the game. And if those two guys are the best prolifical passers in the NBA besides Jokic, and on top of that, they can drop 25 a game, they're just going to be, when they get double teamed, they just need their role players to hit some shots. Right. I think it's going to be great because LeBron has been playing off ball. He plays great off ball. This narrative that LeBron can't play off the ball is stupid, because in the playoffs last year, when they got swept again, LeBron wasn't playing on the ball. He played on ball in crunch time. With the last 2 minutes of the game, because that's who you're going to give it to, or you're going to have him make the decision. And if he fails, that's on him. He's the best player. That's what happens usually. Sure. But throughout the series, he wasn't on the ball. It was more, I'm going to give it to AD, let him cook. I'll move out without the ball. He'll look me on back doors and stuff like that. It was more like decision-making, putting people in place, than more, I'm going to dribble, sidestep three, this, that, and the other thing. So I think that narrative that he can't play without the ball, I think is stupid. I really do.
You look, he's the greatest player of all time, maybe 1A to Michael Jordan. I was a teenager when Michael Jordan was at his prime, so I have a little bit of bias there. But at the same time, it'll be interesting, and players of that ilk can adjust to any playing style. I do believe that, but it'll be interesting to see if it works, like both from a chemistry standpoint, from a ball in the hand standpoint, from score, whatever it is. And then if it's a disaster this year, then they're not gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater. But it will be interesting, right? Because Luke will be there in 7-8 years. LeBron won't.
Sadly, no. Even though he's playing like he can.
Right. It's true.
But yeah, he's not going to be that guy. He even said it. He's not going to be that superstar where he's just going to go when the wheels come off. And I think Kareem did that Dirk did that. D Wade actually retired, and he still had stuff left in the tank. But to be honest, I think he retired right at the right moment. And I didn't even know. I don't know if you know. I forgot to bring this up today in class. Just to sidetrack a slight bit.
Sure.
Dwayne Wade, did you know he was dealing with? He just got out with the cancer.
I did not.
Yeah, he had a cancerous thing in his body that they had to take out. He just had surgery a couple days ago. I didn't even know that. It just came out of nowhere. Same thing with the Randy Moss thing a couple months back.
Right.
With Randy Moss, like out of nowhere, you get the news. Well, Randy Moss has got cancer and he's now free of cancer. D Wade had to take out this thing from his body because it was cancerous. And you wouldn't think, because these guys are such big superstars, take care of their body, and you never know. It could just happen.
You never know what's going to impact you or why. And
exactly. Yeah.
Every day is a blessing.
Yeah, exactly. So we got the thoughts on that. Overall, do you think it was a letter grade for the trade? Where would you go with? Because I know my grade is a bit, it's not even biased. I think it's right on the money. I'm going with I think it's a B+ for both teams.
I was going to say an A- for both teams. And we didn't talk about this. So I think that's about right. I think both teams, could be one of those classic trades where both teams, benefit immensely. And maybe, like I said before, like maybe more so short-term for the Mavs and long-term for the Lakers. So just a stunning trade. And actually, to be honest, a little refreshing in terms of, the day and age that we live in, where stuff gets leaked or you have agents blocking trades. We talked about that in class today, like how last year report was, maybe LeBron was going to go to the Warriors and Rich Paul, that's his name, right? His agent, Rich Paul.
Yep, Rich Paul,
he supposedly nixed it. And, I guess that's his job. I get it. But at the same time, it's when these sort of bombshells come out and nobody's there to have a sniff of it is kind of fun in a way.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, all right. So you had A-, I had B+. Only reason why I take B+, if anyone's caring about why I picked the B+, is because of the fact that you lose a monster defensive anchor for the Lakers.
Yes.
Which we were one of the better defensive teams for the last 10 games. We're actually 9-11 in the last 11. And we've been playing phenomenal defense. And last night we played a very great Clippers team, and we absolutely dominated them without Anthony Davis again. And LeBron, I mean, he had 25, 8, and 8, but it wasn't like he was with the Knicks where he had 33, 13, and 12.
Sure.
And then that was another way. We held down the Knicks. Both the two best players, Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, was shot like combined 4 of 30 or like 8 of 32. So I think that losing that defensive anchor, we'll see what happens. Supposedly Rob Pelinka's not looking to make a move at a center. I don't know why. I guess that's the saying basically I'm going to do, but I don't believe that. I think that's a bunch of bull. I think they got to make a move because I think LeBron's like, yo, we just need, because Jackson Hayes, I watched that game. He's too young. He doesn't know how to set a screen and stay there. He just keeps moving, and it's just a turnover, or he doesn't catch the ball. And then Luka, you lose a backcourt. You use the youth. I mean, Anthony Davis is still 31. He's not young, but he's not old. He's like right in the middle. He's still in his prime. I get the move. You needed better defense, but now you lose offense. It really just depends on if Klay Thompson can take not the step where he was with Golden State, but a little bit of a better consistent step. And can Kyrie Irving become that guy, but still be able to play? But I forgot to tell you, mentioned in class, Kyrie Irving, there was a story, Kyrie Irving and AD been wanting to play since 2018 together when AD was getting out of New Orleans. He wanted to go to Boston, but then Kyrie went to Brooklyn. So that's how it never happened. But so they're great. They're close buds. So we'll see how it works. But that's why I picked a B+. Now, the last trade that I think really warrants a discussion about is this one. I don't know if you knew the extent of the Spurs trade from the details, but this is how it went, where the Spurs received De'Aaron Fox, Jordan McLaughlin, Kings received Zach LaVine, and a 2025 first-round pick from the Hornets, 2027 from the Spurs, 2031 from the Timberwolves, and then 3 seconds from the Bulls, Nuggets, and the Bulls. And then
where are the Kings right now in the standings?
They're, I think, 9. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
so
Let
that
me
sounds about right.
Kings standings. Let me
Yeah,
give you.
I understand why teams like this do this. Yeah, Fox has been with them since he was
They're
drafted,
8.
right?
They're 8.
So why
25 and
would
24.
yeah, so I understand why they do this. I think Fox is coming up on a contract. Is that right?
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much. Yeah.
yeah, and let's face it, like Sacramento's not generally the first choice or second choice of most players for free agents or even just
Yeah.
wanting to go there. So I understand why Sacramento would do it. Love the trade for the Spurs.
Oh,
And
ridiculous.
and the Kings get just a slew of draft picks, including a couple firsts, which is sort of what they do. They accumulate them and then they either don't pick well or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to I don't want to rag on them as a franchise, but the
They
proofs are
haven't made
the
some
proofs are in
smart
the history.
decisions in the past.
Yeah, let's be honest. Even without D-Bots running the show.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, so no, look, I think it's a great trade for the Spurs. I can't tell you what grade I'd put on any of these, especially for the Bulls, but
Now the Bulls are like,
yeah,
you got 1 first-round pick out of it and 3 guys that are like, Kevin Huerter's the best guy, but he's been inconsistent since that run that they had
yep.
when they were the 3rd seed in the West 2 years ago.
So this got to be a cap move in for the Bulls. They're freeing up cap space. I guess that's
they're trying to bring something. Yeah. I think it's probably going to happen in the offseason, or I don't know, maybe they make a splash and bring on Kevin Durant. That's very highly unlikely.
Right.
But I think Levine to the Kings. It was either going to be, I didn't even think of the Kings, but me and my co-host Irv, who's not on today, we both were thinking about, because there was talks about Milwaukee with now Chris Middleton obviously moved to Washington, where he's just going to rot. Washington's a poverty franchise. I'm just going to call that as it is. It's pretty bad since John Wall left there. So I would say that he's there, but Kyle Kuzma going to the Bucks is going to be something. I like his game. I liked him with the Lakers. I just think he was just in the wrong system when he moved from the Lakers. And then he just kept bouncing around. And I think Washington was the worst place for him to go. So I think he'll relive his career there. But Zach LaVine, I think he's back with his boy and DeMar DeRozan. They have Domantas Sabonis. They got Malik Monk. The Kings are no sleeper. They got some guys. They got some dudes that can play. And Zach LaVine has been playing absolutely very good of late, I should say. He's had like over 20 points in the last like 10 games straight. So
yeah, there was a time where it wasn't out of the question to think he might be cooked, So he's always not been a great defender, but he certainly had I lose you there?
It just cut out for a second. But we're good.
Yeah, I was just talking about Zach LaVine and him sort of having a little bit of a bounce back, and it was a right to question like how great of a player is he? Going back a year or two, right?
Yeah.
Certainly never been a great defender, but anyway, so
flashy guy, can really get you points and stuff like that. Not really known for his defense, but he'll love Sacramento. They got a good fan base. I like their fan base. So finally, before I let you go, Professor, we had some big news that actually is happening right now. It's not a trade, but there has been some KD buzz. And one is according to the Warriors, they're actually in talks in moving Draymond Green. So they said that the Warriors are trying to find ways to enhance their roster, have discussed trading mainstay Draymond Green. That's one. 2, I don't think they're going to do that. It would be dumb to break up them 2, but to be honest, if they can get Kevin Durant, then maybe that's the thing. But now it looks like Kevin Durant doesn't want to go there. Kevin Durant will likely, it was according to, hold up, I have it here. It is according to, hold on, Jesus. Kevin Durant says he doesn't want to be traded, and he has reservations about going back to Golden State. So he's on the iffy block, like going back to Golden State. So that means that relationship between him and Draymond ain't no patched up, or that organization is not still patched up. Then the latest a minute ago, because that happened 35 minutes ago, Kevin Durant will likely either remain with the Suns or be traded to the Heat. not interested in the Warriors reunion, according to Shams. So if you guys are out there on TikTok or whatever, Kevin Durant does not want to go to the Warriors. He wants to either stay with Phoenix or be traded to the Miami Heat, according to Shams Shiranani. So
Phoenix wants Jimmy Butler wants Phoenix. I'm not sure if they want him.
Should say Shams and Windhorst reported that.
Well, it's going to be we have 24 more hours before the trade deadline, right?
Pretty much. I mean, it is 3:00. So yeah, about 24 hours on the dot.
Well, I think buckle up. It'll be wild. So
yeah, I'm gonna be going nuts all night. So we'll see what's happening. But what do you think about that Kevin Durant thing? Do you think you think that I guess the I should say what should I say that it's really not looking like he wants to go back to the Warriors, so maybe that relationship is not patched up? Because I mean,
what's his problem with Phoenix? Why does he maybe want to leave Phoenix? What's his issue there?
I don't know. That's the problem. That's where a lot of people are like, wait, why does he not want to get out of Phoenix? I think it's if he's going to get traded, he wants to go to either stay with Phoenix, which he said, or he wants to go to Miami, which the only way that I think Jimmy Butler goes to Miami is if Kevin Durant gets a swap. But I thought the whole point of going to Phoenix for Jimmy was to play with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I don't
understand. And Bradley Beal is screwing this up because Bradley Beal has like a 1 year, $60 million contract with a no trade clause. So like he's the one that's screwing everything up. Because if he wasn't there, then they would just bring on Jimmy, or if he was on contract with no trade clause, they would just ship him off. So I don't know. There's a lot to uncover when it comes to Kevin Durant and why he wants to leave and all of a sudden. So I don't know. I really don't. I wish I did, because if I did, then I wouldn't be here. I would be on ESPN then.
Right, I get it.
So what are your final thoughts on and what do you think will happen in the future when it comes to Kevin Durant and where he might go?
I don't know. You know, I don't have a great. I don't certainly have any insight, that's for sure. But I do think, you know, it just sort of goes back and tells you the lay of the land or the state of the union in the NBA right now, where you have, you know, guys getting moved for because they have big contracts, or if they want to go to certain places, or whatever it might be. I don't know if it's always healthy for the sport, and this isn't a new development with the league, but you know, let's say for some reason the basis of a Phoenix Miami trade is Durant and Butler. And I don't know if that's true, if their salaries match, or what else would have to be involved. I don't know, but like, I'm not sure what that does for Kevin Durant. Like, he's going to a worse team. Like, there's no question about it. And I understand he may not want that. And then you sort of like, you let Jimmy Butler, if you're the Heat, sort of dictate what happens with that franchise, you know? So I certainly understand their willingness or their interest in wanting to move him. But you know, that stuff, I sort of hate it for the league, because it starts to mess with the competition when you have guys that want to play in certain markets or with certain guys or whatever. And, you know, the other teams lose the leverage, right? Yeah. And it makes for a worse trade and worse competition. So not a new problem, like I said, but you know, if nothing else, it's certainly exciting. It's never dull around free agency for the NBA. It's certainly never dull around the trade deadline. And, you know, heading into the All-Star break soon here, and obviously the trade deadline, like you said, less than 24 hours away. It's going to be a sort of must-watch TV and scrolling on your phone.
Exactly. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I appreciate Professor. Thank you for coming on a busy Wednesday afternoon. Good luck to your Eagles.
Appreciate that.
Even though I am a Cowboys fan, so I am rooting for Kansas City. But I'm sorry, I can't root for the Eagles. But to be honest, I hope it's a good game. I don't want one team blowing out the other team. I hope it's a good game and it comes down to the wire like the last year Super Bowl was, because that was a great Super Bowl. But the last thing I'm going to say, because I didn't pick my score, I'm going to go. What was your score again for the Super Bowl?
I said 24-20.
24-20. I'm going to go 27-24 Chiefs. Win by another field goal. But it might not be a field goal. I think it's a touchdown at the end, like type of stuff.
Not again, Zach. Not again.
Sorry, I got to go with the Chiefs. I can't go for the Eagles. But I think it's going to be a good game. And if you guys win, you guys were the better team anyways. So, to be honest, it's good for you guys and your franchise. So, good luck. Have a good Super Bowl. And I will see you next week on Wednesday. Thanks again, Professor. That is pretty much it for the show, guys, here on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is hot. This is Season 6, Episode 29. We'll see you guys on Season 6, Episode 30 to get Irv, our co-host, picks this coming Friday. Peace out, guys. I'll see you guys then.
Keep up the good work, Zach. Thanks.